Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining. Today is an awesome, amazing session. Um, I have in here with me Rachel. So, Rachel is a really amazing person, and I'll do the awesome intro. So, Rachel, welcome. Welcome to the stream today. I hope you're thrilled and ready for people. Rachel, ambia watu, salimia watu.
Hi everyone. Hi Cliff. Yes, I'm so excited. Thank
Awesome,
you.
awesome, awesome. So Rachel is a really, really amazing person. She's actually a qualified biomedical engineer. I didn't know this. She's also a self-taught Android developer, passionate about creating beautiful, engaging apps. Actually, she's a master of compose. She loves working with cutting edge technologies and exploring the ways to enhance user experiences. So outside this, she's actually organizes program that support women in Android, which is called droidettes. You can search them on Twitter, and you'll see what they do. And she's also passionate about communities. So, Rachel, that's just a brief
Yes.
intro about yourself. Introduce yourself to everyone.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Rachel Nafula Murabula. Everything that Cliff has said. I'm a self-taught Android developer, also a qualified biomedical engineer. That's what I did when I was in campus. Um, yes, I'm also a dancer and a singer. Like I do that as a hobby. And yeah, I love to be in communities and speak and, teach people and to be taught. I love to learn. I'm very open minded. Yes.
Awesome. So, you love to dance. Maybe you can share that with us sometime. We see what dance moves you have in place. So, Rachel, welcome to the stream today. I'll ask you a few questions, and our topic today is mastering the fundamentals of Android development. So, share with us your journey and how you started. How did you become an Android developer?
So I how I started. I actually started because of a business that we were working on. We wanted an app for it. And since like I have the background of engineering, I thought that okay, since I've done C and I've done, a little bit of Arduino, machine learning, I think I can try and do it. So that's how I started doing Android development. I started with Java. It was very hard. And then I went to XML. And then I just decided, okay, Sawa, let me try Jetpack Compose, and it accepted me. So yeah.
Awesome. So you said you started it because there's this business you're building. So what's this business that you're building?
Hmm? Currently, I run a business. It's called Taraji. We sell bags, and we sell 100%, like all types of bags. But now we're looking to, go straight into 100% leather bags, so pure leather bags. But also, I was working with D&D gifts. I also have, I don't know what to call it there. I don't know whether to call myself a shareholder or but yeah, there's also that app. So those two companies is actually what led me to it. And then yeah, so that's what I'm currently building.
Awesome. That's really, really interesting. I think I've seen D&D gifts somewhere. And you guys, if you want to share a gift with a loved one, a birthday, go check out D&D gifts.
Yeah.
So there's this question that I want you to answer. So, what are
Mhm.
this? What are some of the best practices you've used in terms of testing and debugging Android applications?
Okay, in terms of testing, so when it comes to testing, there are different types of testing, and I think during the talk, I don't know if you were there, the talk that we had on Saturday, I talked about it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so we have automated testing where you can actually just use the Android Studio itself. And if you're maybe using backend, you can use frameworks like Ktor, um, Insomnia, you can use that to test as well. In Android Studio, you can also use your emulator. You can use your Android phone to test, which is actually manual testing. And then also to help you, it's also important to make sure that your code is clean. So when you're actually coding, don't just write your code carelessly and haphazardly, knowing that you're just going to test anyway. No, make sure you're sensitive to your code. You actually think about, okay, when I'm writing this, have I typed this well, or have I written this well, so that you don't have issues in the long run. Also, you need to make sure when it comes to debugging, that's basically also comes down to you based on what you have done with your app, how you've written your code. Like what I usually say is, when it comes to testing and debugging, it depends on that developer. You have to make sure you are a very, sensitive to your code. Make sure that each step that you make in your code is, let me say, well calculated. Don't just change your dependencies. Don't just upgrade the versions in Android Studio without thinking, like, am I making a good decision? Like, you have to be very sensitive and careful with your code. Yeah.
Awesome. And let's go back to you creating mobile apps because you were starting a business. So, how did you start from knowing, okay, there is this something called Android development. This is what I need to start. You mentioned you started with Java. How has the switch from Kotlin been?
Okay, so I started with Java. I made a calculator initially, and then I actually didn't know about Kotlin. So that's why I started with Java. Um, so when I got into Kotlin, I was like, this is actually easier because one, I'm not using there's this punctuation. I've forgotten the punctuation. Semicolons. I'm not using semicolons. It's like it uses less code. So that's I just decided, look, I know that Java is good, but let me just try this Kotlin thing because for me, I don't like to struggle. I don't like to suffer.
No one likes to suffer.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's how you started, and when did you switch from Kotlin?
It was after 1 month of doing Java. That's when I switched to Kotlin, and I didn't really go back to Java after that. But at least
Awesome,
like I
awesome,
had the background.
awesome. So you talked about Jetpack Compose, and
Yeah.
there's this question I would want to ask: what are the best practices for designing user interfaces in Android apps?
So one thing I would say is keep it simple, okay? So first of all, I think when it comes to designing, people usually overthink it. Like they want to make animations and make it crazy, but like when you're starting, just try and keep it as simple as possible. Like don't overthink it. And also it's very important for you to know about material design, material 3. I think you guys can Google on that because it's very important. It helps you when you're creating the app. And then also when it comes to creating the user interface, colors are very important. Make sure you don't put some crazy colors. I have seen apps that have some luminous green with some crazy purple. Like, I totally understand that, maybe some people don't really know colors, but you can use something like Dribbler to help you, because this is where people have already made the UI for you. All you have to do is, you can just like take it as an inspiration and you make your app out of that. They've used very nice colors, and yeah. Also, it's important for you to get feedback. So each time when you're designing, maybe you've designed your first screen, maybe you're just a beginner, or you've made the whole app, make sure that you have people to actually look at the app and see, oh, okay, because it's the user who's going to actually use it. So go through your app, give it to your friends, your family, to check, are the buttons okay, or do they really understand what is in this user interface. So yeah, I think that's what I would say. Also, the last thing is testing. Make sure you test your app because maybe you're changing a feature in your app or you're adding something. You could easily add a bug without knowing. So testing is very important.
Awesome. Yeah, like guys, testing is very important. Make sure you write tests. I believe we'll look into tests sometime, and also make sure to share with the people, share with everyone, because different devices have different screen sizes. So if you share with someone who has a very large screen, someone who has a tablet,
Yeah.
they'll see it in a different way other than someone who's looking at it on their TV. Um, so you talked about sharing with people. So how do you handle user input and events in your Android apps?
Um. Sorry. Sorry.
How do you handle user input and events in your Android applications?
Okay. So basically, you have to understand like what is what is the user input that you want to handle. Like, for example, are they supposed to like click a button, or are they supposed to type in their email? You have to really know what is the actual input that is in place, and then you have to implement an listener interface that corresponds with the user input or the event that you want to handle. For example, like if you want to handle a click event on a button, you would implement, the on click listener. So you also have to get to know, which listener you want to use. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So make sure you know which listener you're using. So let's go back again to you starting out and becoming an Android developer. So you as a women in tech, um, I believe there are a lot of women in tech advices given to people, women specifically, joining the Android space, and also not so many women in the Android space. So, like, how has it been being a woman in tech, and what would you advise people to do?
Okay. I think because I have the background of biomedical engineering, most of my classmates, I think we were 8 girls and the guys were 30. So I am used to handling men. Like my personality has become very strong. Like, I am a very tough person. So I think the experience has not been hard. Like, dealing with men has not really been an issue. And the truth is, yeah, I realized when I entered the Android community, I realized that there are very few women in Android. And even the ones who are there are like, they don't want to talk. They really don't want people to know them. Some of them are shy, others are just not interested. And like, I don't believe in that. Like, I don't believe in, why should I just sit down in the background? I'm not really a background type of girl. So yeah, it's so far so good, because like what I realized with Android engineers, they're very receptive. So um they really want to have more women in Android. They really want to have more women talking and expressing themselves, which is good. So it's challenging. Like right now, we're running the droidettes, women in Android community. It's challenging to actually get female speakers. Like I have struggled, but we're training people. Like we're training speakers. We're trying to encourage them. To like we have like our own talks as ladies, so that like eventually when we want to invite everyone into the page, someone won't feel like, hey, I'm in a very unfamiliar ground. But a lot more women are now entering into the Android space, and they're becoming more confident. That's what I would say. Because like right now in Droidettes, we have like 37 members from different countries. And we're hoping, to get more members, to get more speakers, so that communities like Android 254 and Kotlin Kenya won't really struggle to get female speakers. Like there shouldn't be a difference, like we should not fill that gap. And that's what we're actually working on. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So there's also one question from YouTube. So YouTube is really blowing up, and the question, someone, so there's this person called Ryan Oching, and is asking, as one who is starting out, how much Kotlin should I know before migrating to Compose?
Oh, okay. So Ryan, Compose is written in Kotlin. Like Compose uses Kotlin, you see. So what I would advise you is to just start making those UIs. Go to Dribble. I think there's also a website called Behance or Behance. I really don't know. Can't remember the name.
It's
You can just
Behance.
go. It's Behance, right? Okay. You can just go to the website, look at the UIs, and start working on it, because Kotlin Compose was written in Kotlin, so you can just get started. Yeah, basically.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So Ryan, just go into the documentation, read.
Mm,
Remember, last time Mambo Brand said documentation is key. So
yeah.
let's come into this other question. Um,
Mhm.
what are the different ways of storing data in Android apps, and when should you use each one?
So we have the local way of storing data, where we use SQLite database, and Room, which is like creates an abstract layer for it. So that's one of the ways. That one is basically a local database. And then we also have, the type of database where you get the database, like it's fetched through an API, and then you can use it inside your application. So now that one is more of like external storage. We also have like shared preferences, which is storage of small amounts of data, such as user preferences, or like settings. So like it stores data in key value pairs, and it's stored like in a file on the device, and it can be accessed using the preference manager class. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And how do you use Android SDK and Android Studio to create Android apps?
So that's a very good question. Android Studio is actually very important for you to know. It's a framework of Android. So Android Studio, basically you have to install Android Studio itself. And then once you install it, you have different options on whether you want to use a normal activity or you want to use a compose activity. So once you've installed it, for example, if you're using compose, all you have to do is just click it and open compose itself, and you can get straight into working on it. So it's basically help you to design your UI and to write your whole code. It will also help you to test your app, because testing is actually done in Android Studio as well. And then once your app is ready, you will be able to publish your app on Google Play Store, and get to it.
Awesome. So that's actually the basics of creating an Android app. So another question would be, what advice would you give for people who are starting out and those people who are just getting into the Android space?
Okay. One thing that I would advise you is make sure you have people around you that you work with. So, for example, don't be a closed room developer. Make sure you have like a community, and in the community make sure you have like a group of people who you can push code together, maybe like work on an open source together. If you can get a mentor, then good for you, but you don't really have to have a mentor. You can always have people who you ask questions. You can just go on Twitter and ask anyone, because that's one of the things that I did. Like I have different people. Anyone who's written Android developer, senior, something, just go to their DMs and ask them the question that you want to ask them if you feel like you're not getting good answers from everybody else. That's the first thing. The second thing is, of course, you need a laptop. Make sure you have a GitHub account. Oh my goodness. Like, I thought it was obvious to everyone that they need a GitHub account, but I came to realize that people actually don't know that it's important to have a GitHub account. Like, have a GitHub account. It will be very important. And make sure you try to work on open source projects, like basically work with people. I really am a firm believer of working with people, because there you get to learn, and you can also get to teach others on whatever it needs to be learned. Sorry.
Awesome. No problem. So you talked about open source. What is open source and how does someone join?
Okay. So open source, how do I describe it? An open source project is a project that has been pushed to GitHub, and it is accessible to everyone. As long as you have a GitHub profile, then you can actually access it. Now you can clone that open source project and see some of the features that you can actually add in the project. And then you create a pull request, and from the pull request, the owner of the project can review your pull request and decide whether they are going to actually your pull request is actually going to proceed or not. So basically, it's working on people's projects that are public and adding features to those projects. That's what I would say.
Awesome. So you talked about pull requests. In
Yeah.
layman's in layman's, because
Okay.
most people who are watching
Yeah.
this stream are
Uh,
beginners. So in
yeah.
layman's, how would you describe a pull request?
Okay. Okay. So, you have your GitHub account. Now, when you have your GitHub account, you also have your Android Studio. So, for example, I have created a project, and it's out there. So, what you do, you come to my GitHub profile. You go to my repository. A repository is just like it's like a room that stores the project itself, the Android Studio project. You clone that project, and then once you clone it, you can paste that link inside your Android Studio. You change the feature, or you add a feature, or you make a correction inside your Android Studio. And then after that, you're supposed to push that code from your Android Studio to GitHub. Like, you're supposed to send whatever you have created, or whatever you have changed from your Android Studio to GitHub through a branch. Okay, so of course, there's the main code. So you create your own specific branch for whatever you have corrected or whatever you've added to that project, and then you push it to GitHub. Now, once you have pushed it to GitHub, um, that's like the process of creating a pull request. Because now from there, I, as the owner of the project, will look at that branch that you created, and I'll see, okay, does it make sense? Is it going to work out in my project? If it is going to work out, then whatever that branch you created is going to be added into my project, which is like merging. I believe we're on the same page. Is that enough of an explanation?
Yes, it is enough. So basically, also I can just add on to that. A pull
Yeah,
request is telling this person, hey, I can see you have a project. Let me change the button. I have changed the button. Are you okay with this
yeah.
button? Do you approve it? They approve it, and then your changes are put into that person's app. So let's get into another question. So, what are some of the common issues and challenges you face when developing an Android app, and how have you overcome them?
Ah, I think one of the issues that I have experienced is getting that red light. We're getting a bug. And one thing that I learned about getting an error or getting a bug, the first thing that you should look at is your Gradle. Go and check if your versions are okay, and go and check if your dependencies are okay, because sometimes you just have like, for example, you've used remember, there's something called remember mutable state of, and the only thing you've not done is you've not imported get value and set value. So yeah, make sure you have your dependencies there, and all your imports are also there. Another thing is, which other problem have I faced? Yeah, building my Android Studio project. Oh my goodness, that thing takes so long. That's why
Yeah.
you just need patience, because I have learned to be patient. You'll just have to wait for that Gradle to work well. Like, I think you need a laptop that has a really good RAM and space, like a lot of space. Though I really don't know how much space that this Gradle usually needs to build. But yeah, it makes it easier. It makes it easier. And yeah, I think another issue is consistency. Um, Sometimes you can work on your application. You're really trying to make this button work, and it's just not working, and you get very discouraged in that process. So you can feel like kwani lazima tutengeneze apps. It's not by force. Why am I forcing? Especially if you're self-taught, you're just like, it's not like it's a must. It's not a must. But one thing that has helped me with such consistency issues is being around people who are coding. So like if I don't feel like coding, maybe having conversations on Android things and Android Studio, getting people to actually encourage me that, oh, yo, don't worry, I'm also facing the same issue, let's keep going, let's keep moving. So also I go back to the point of don't be a closed room developer. Interact with people, it will really, really help you.
Awesome. So you also mentioned you're self-taught. How
Yeah.
has the journey been becoming a self-taught developer, coming from the biomedical engineering space and coming to this tech world, self-taught and teaching yourself all the skills? How has it been, and what will be your advice for all other people who are self-learning by themselves?
Yeah, so the journey has not been easy. Hey, you don't have a teacher, you don't have someone to tell you to do your homework. You don't have anyone to give you an assignment. You just have to push yourself. So one of the things that I have learned through this process of teaching myself is, one, to surround myself with people who will help me and encourage me to keep going. Two, to use the documentation. I never really used to value using the Android Studio documentation. I was like, I'm just going to use YouTube videos, you know? And I realized, whenever I use the documentation, it actually makes a big difference. Like, it helps me to get the errors. Even I was even telling myself, I wish I just started from the very beginning, using the documentation, but it's okay. Also, you can use YouTube videos. And then the fourth thing is, just start building a project. Like, don't be like, oh, I'm just going to be learning Kotlin basics, variables, and the data types. You know, for me, I would just say, just start working on a project. Say that you're going to work on a PDF converter, or you're going to work on an inventory app, you're going to work on an e-commerce app, and just start work on it page by page, screen by screen. Yeah, I think that will really, really help you to move quickly and to get the very fundamental and important concepts. Yeah.
Awesome. You guys have been told, just start,
Yeah.
create any project that you'd want. People are outside here looking at your projects. And also remember, GitHub is a really important tool. Use GitHub. Put your put your projects on GitHub, because it's really, really important, and that's how recruiters or job seekers really evaluate you as an expert in Android development. um Maybe you can talk about a little bit about droidettes and what you guys do at droidettes.
Okay. So droidettes is a community for women in Android, where we empower women in Android, to become better Android developers, and those who are starting to actually be encouraged to keep going. It helps, we try to help women to, you know, like, be confident and go out there and speak about their applications. And like, even when they're going for job interviews, it shouldn't be that they feel shy about saying how much they want to be paid and things like that. No, we want to have strong women who can come out and say, okay, yeah, I am a woman in Android, and this is what I do. We usually have hangouts on like the first Monday and the third Monday of each month. And sometimes we have a speaker, sometimes we just do a hangout where we are in the community, we just want to talk because women like to talk. So we just talk about the issues that we're going through, some of the challenges that we're facing in our projects. Like in the last hangout, some people were saying that what are some of the resources you can use for Kotlin, because they were really struggling to get resources. We got to learn that some people don't know the importance of giving a talk or writing an article. They don't see the use of it. So we just really try to encourage one another to keep coding. And also we're planning on starting, like, building our own application as well, as a way to give back to the community. So we have a number of ideas that are coming up, but it's basically an application that is set to give back to the community, whether it's mental health or women, or anyone, like any way we can give back to the community. That's going to be the set goal of that application. So we will be working on open source projects together, building apps together. We're just trying our best to get more women to come into Android and actually become very great women, and to be out there rather than being shy and all. Yeah.
Awesome. So we've talked about so many things. So let's jump into YouTube. There is a question.
Okay.
Um, what's your take on AI fusion with
Mm-hmm.
Android development? Case in point, use of tools like ChatGPT 4 and Midjourney in development.
Okay, so this is what I think. I think AI is a very good thing, and I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, AI is going to come and take our jobs. Especially even when I was in biomedical engineering, uh, there are robots that were being made. So we felt like these robots are going to be able to repair the machines for us, and we won't have any jobs. But I absolutely do not believe that. I think that they are tools that have been brought to help us to improve our skills. It's going to make work easier for us. You see, I think they're very, very good and they're very important. But you, as an Android developer, also you have to see. I think we are so close-minded to, oh, I have to get a job. Like, I have to look for a job in a big company. I have to be on LinkedIn and everything. But I think there's more to life than just looking for a job. And I think that's why people are so worried that, ChatGPT is going to come and replace me because I'm not going to get a job after this. But then, you can always have your own startup. You can always build your own app and sell it to someone. you know there's so much to it, and there are people who don't really even know about this AI stuff, you see. So my take is that it's a very good thing that has come. Yes, it makes work easier, so that means that probably companies are not going to need more Android developers, but it's not that you're going to be replaced, because they do have errors and there are things that they cannot do. You see, the AI, there are things that they can't do. So I think you should just remain positive and don't be closed-minded to, I have to look for a job. No, you can be a startup. You can create your own app, sell your app. You can always sell your idea. You can always have a community. You can always have an NGO. Like, in this life, even Kitambo, before we got the smartphones, we were just using phones with buttons. So those people with phones with buttons would have been so worried, like, oh my God, now they have brought the ideas. What are we going to do? Our phones are not going to be used. So the thing is, right now, there are people who still use kabambes, and companies decided, okay, fine, this ideas has come, let us make our own, so you keep upgrading. This is technology. You move with technology. You just have to just think out of the box and see how you can still use your skills to move with technology. You can even decide to make your own AI, so that's just my thinking.
Awesome, awesome. That's really amazing. And um guys, make sure don't only look for jobs, build apps, build businesses, build
Mm.
startups, build um applications that run on mobile devices that do specific tasks. There is automotive, there is hardware. There are a lot of things in the Android space that you could always look at. So there's
Yeah.
this other question I would want to ask. What are some of the advanced topics in Android, uh, such as working with sensors or integrating with other services like biometrics, that you would advise people who are starting out or those people who would want to build businesses into that?
Okay. So as you mentioned, working with sensors, I think when it comes to sensors, we did that when I was in biomedical engineering. So things like an accelerometer, stuff like GPS, fitness tracker, like those are really, really advanced apps. Also, you can work, build custom views. So the Android provides a powerful framework for building custom views, which can be used to create unique and very engaging UIs. Um, so you can use this by using the Canvas API, and by extending existing view classes. Also working with background tasks, like I think that's quite some of the advanced things, services, async tasks. I don't know if this is advanced, but in my case, I think it is advanced. It's important to when you start doing backend, like building your own APIs, and actually connecting them instead of using Firebase, because Firebase is very easy and it's very quick. But then now, when you start getting into the space of using things like a Tor, MySQL database, that's quite advanced as well. There's also the side of security and privacy, like encryption, authentication. So if you're building these things and you're not using Firebase, then you're very sure that you are using advanced Android. Yeah. Cliff, I think your microphone is.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Thanks so much. So a follow up into the question regarding AI Fusion, Midjourney, and ChatGPT 4. So the follow up was, do they
Mhm.
follow best practices, and would you advise someone to use them?
Oh, yes, I would advise someone to use them, but like in the sense of maybe if you're looking for a solution, because these AIs, they do have errors. I will not lie to you. Like they they don't really, I don't know, they just have issues. Like I've used ChatGPT has issues. So I would advise someone to use ChatGPT, but then I wouldn't tell you to use it as like the main thing. Just use it maybe like if you have an error and you're really, really stuck. Maybe you've gone to Stack Overflow, you can't really find something. And then also how you ask it really matters, because it requires you to give it details. Like imagine you're actually having a conversation with a human being. You need to give them nitty gritties. Like for example, if I want to create a button, or let me talk about the search bar. So there's an issue I was facing with my search bar. It was like cropping the search part. Um, and I was trying to tell ChatGPT that look, it is cropping. Like it doesn't understand that what I'm trying to say. So I ended up using Stack Overflow because ilikuwa na hiyo solution. I learned that I was using Material 3, and Material 3 has a different way of doing it. So basically, ChatGPT is good. You just need to give it like details. Whenever you're giving it a question that you have, make sure you write the details, the nitty gritties. Like my search bar has this issue. I am using Jetpack Compose. I am in Android Studio, things like that. So yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about optimization. How do you optimize your Android applications, and what are the common performance best practices to look out for?
You asked, how do
you optimize your Android applications?
Okay. I think one of the things is that whenever you're making your app, try not to use the main thread. Like for everything, you put everything in your main activity. That's actually making your app to struggle. Your app could be really, really slow. So try to divide your app. Like even with my composables, I try to make, my homepage, my home screen. That's like my view. I have my view model over there. Like just separate everything. Don't put everything on your main thread, because now your app will lag. And then also try to avoid memory leaks. It can cause your app to really run slowly. So if you can use the Android profiler to detect, any memory leaks that may be in your app, I think it would work really well for you. And as I've said, it's very important for you to use, the Android architecture, MVVM. I am an MVVM person, to just organize your code nicely, distribute it. Yes, that's what I
Awesome,
would say.
awesome. One last question. So you talked about you building a business and people building apps and startups. So how do they distribute and market their Android applications? And what are some strategies for building successful app businesses?
Okay. Of course, after you have published your app in Google Play Store, one of the things that you have to do is to talk to people. As we said earlier, you are not a closed room developer, so you have friends, you have family, right? So talk to people about your app, get them to experience your app so that you can get to know, what do I need to improve in my app to get the best for the user. Also, we have social media marketing. You can run a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad. You can also run a Google ad. These ads really help. Like they really, really do help with businesses. People will get to know about your app, even if it's for awareness. People will have it in their mind that your app actually exists. For example, in YouTube videos, you always get an ad, yeah, Bolt, in driver, you hear Asian saying, with in driver, blah blah blah. Like at least you know that it exists. So in the time when you're like, Sunny, download app, gunning it and say, yeah, kutoka hapa, in your head, because you have been looking at this advertisement unknowingly and unconsciously, it's actually saved somewhere in your conscience. So you will just end up downloading maybe like the Uber app or the Bolt app because you've seen it a lot. So social media marketing is very important. Also, you can use influencers. I know about a company called Shane. They use influencers a lot. That's how they do their marketing. Like they talk to different influencers from the US to market their products. So that's another thing that I could really advise you to do. Which other form of marketing? There's another one I've forgotten. Yeah. I think those ones are enough. And also to build your business, I think it's very important for you to get investors. But for you to get investors, you also have to make sure that you can sell your application very well. If you can have something that gives back to the society or improves, the environment and agriculture, things like that, something medical, just have an idea or a solution that can actually change the world. For example, like M-Pesa, it was just an idea, but now when they put it into place, you can see how much change and impact it has had. So make sure that your idea is not just it's just not a basic idea, but it's actually something that will is a solution that will solve people's problems, so that when you're selling it out to an investor or when you're looking out for funding, they see that the sense in it, and they are actually, moved to help and to give you funds to build your business. Yeah.
Wow, that was really, really insightful. So, one last parting shot from you. Advice you would give for all women in tech, all people who want to start Android development, people who are starting right now, people who are in the space, and what they're supposed to do or what they're supposed to look for.
One of the things that I would advise is you should be very open minded. As you know about Android development, it has changed and it has been changing over the years. Tech is a space that moves. So as you're joining, you may think that someone who has like 10 years experience is in a better position, but the truth is they've done Java, they've come here and then they've done Kotlin, and now they're being told to do Jetpack Compose. So it can actually be draining for them. So look at yourself as I am in a good position. Tech is moving, so make sure you have an open mind. Okay, don't be rigid, because if you're rigid, utabaki uko nyuma, no one is going to be interested in you. Right now, what is going on, Jetpack Compose? What Android version are we going to? Android 14, you get, and we know that there's some features that work in Android 12. For example, like a splash screen. Right now, the way a splash screen is being made is using the splash screen API. You get, we're not using like the previous format where we had to like go to the main activity and put all these details. No. So move with technology. Don't be rigid. Make sure you're open minded. And the next thing is make sure you have your GitHub account, as we have been talking and talking and talking about it over and over again. And start, just start. And if you can build an app, like if you can start from that point where you've decided you're going to build an app, please do so. It would be really nice, and build your own app. I know people like cloning apps, like cloning the Instagram app and cloning the WhatsApp app. But no, what you can do is get ideas from WhatsApp, get ideas from Instagram, see what you can do to, put all of them together and build your own app. Like have your own thing. If you want to copy, it's still okay. You can get different features from different apps. If you're going to be using Jetpack Compose, Dribble will really help you as well to build your app, and also Behance. So what happens is you go there, you look for an inspiration for your application, and then you try to build that specific inspiration inside your app. So you can also take ideas from that side. If you're not really a front end person, like if you're not really into Jetpack Compose and UI is really not your thing, you can always also, go into backend. Because I noticed a lot of people don't want to go into backend. They don't want to deal with the servers and the APIs. They don't want to deal with that. I think it's important. So if you feel that it's Jetpack Compose is not your thing, like UI, the UI side is just not your thing, then go to backend. Go and work on backend, because even backend is better because it doesn't really change as much as how front end does in Android development. So make sure you start. And I still repeat the last statement: do not be a closed door engineer. Interact with people. Like, if it's hard for you to interact with people in person, interact with them on social media. Ask questions. Make sure your LinkedIn profile, you're posting your projects over there, sell yourself out there. You are a whole package. So I think when you're starting out, some people feel shy, some people feel maybe watu wameenda, like, I have been left behind. Am I going to be able to do it? I think you should just come in with all the confidence and get to work. There's no excuse. Technology is moving, and so do you. Like, you also have to be moving. So don't feel shy. Just go for it. Like, take it and build yourself, because you are a brand and there are people out there who are looking for someone like you. And the last thing, which I think companies usually look for a lot, is character. Make sure you work on your character, work on your communication skills, work on your pride. Like, hello, a lot of Android developers out here have egos. Like, be humble, just be a chilled person, communicate with people, work on your character. Yeah, very important.
Awesome. So there's just one more question on YouTube. So
Okay.
Lillian is asking, how did you overcome inconsistency in coding?
Okay, Lillian, I think I had answered this previously, but I'm just going to say it again. So there's a time, actually, I didn't code for 1 month. And I was feeling it's because the app I was working on didn't work out. Like, I was going into the back end side of it, and it was becoming so hard. And I had believed that, oh, this is just the it, because a lot of people had really liked it. So I stopped coding for 1 month. Um, what I think I should have done differently is I should have been communicating with people, because at that time I was not really interested in talking to people. I was like very disattached from people. So for you to work on your inconsistency, I think you should make sure you have people you communicate with who can encourage you to keep coding, like people who you can tell, by there, I don't feel like coding, and they can encourage you. And the second thing is, if you can have like a guideline or a syllabus for yourself on how you're going to learn, that would be very, very good. You can either decide, I'm going to do the Android documentations, like the different code labs. You can decide that, okay, I'm going to work on this app, I'm going to start with this screen and this screen and this screen. Organizing yourself really helps a lot as well. And having people, to to check up on you, like, oh yeah, how far is the app, like, okay, have you created this screen and everything. Also, working on open source projects will help you, because maybe it's because you're focusing so much on this app, and you just feel like, mi nimeboeka. So maybe you can try and work on other people's apps, add features to their apps, try something different, because every time you put in something new, it gives your mind like a whole new space, like, oh, this is something different. Okay, let's try it out. It gives you a different mood. And then I think, get your timings right. Like, are you a morning person or are you a night person? If you're not a morning person, please don't force it, because sometimes you can decide, okay, I'm going to sleep early and wake up early and I'm going to start coding. And then in the morning, you set your alarm like 10 times, and waking up is an issue, you know. So if you're not a morning person, don't even force it. Like, set your timings. I'm going to code from this time to this time. I'm going to, you know, communicate with people from this time and this time. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is some of the things that I would advise you when it comes to inconsistency. Yeah, I hope that has helped, Lillian.
Awesome. I think that has been a really insightful session. Thanks so much, Rachel. You can share where people would want to reach out, and yeah, and make sure to always join in the sessions. The
Yeah.
sessions are bi-weekly, always on Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. And yeah, thanks, guys. Maybe Rachel, you can share where people would want to follow you if they want to reach out.
Okay, I think on Twitter, you can just search my name, Rachel Murabula, as it is on the, I think you guys can see. Yeah.
Awesome. Rachel, I think I've lost you a bit. Okay. So thanks so much, guys. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you for coming to this session. Thank you for listening. Rachel was has a really amazing what can I say, has a really amazing story and insights that she had shared. And also make sure to follow her. I will share all the details on this stream, where you can find her, all the links where you'll be able to find her. And yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thank you everyone for making the live stream a really interesting stream. If you'd also want to speak, feel free to reach out to me either on YouTube or Twitter. Everywhere is Cliff Gore, Gor. Just search for that name. You'll find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Facebook, on WhatsApp. If you're in the community groups, do reach out to me and I'll slot you for a talk. Thanks, guys. Have a lovely evening and see you next time. Bye, everyone.